10, 9. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's council meeting. This is the 20th meeting of the 144th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas. And I'd first like to share with you that the City of St. Thomas has lost a friend. Gord Campbell passed away, and many of you will know him as a longtime councillor in the City of St. Thomas. And many of you will know him from many other ways, the same as I did. Gord was a member of a lot of things, including at the senior center. So I would love it if we could have a moment of silence on Gord's behalf this evening. Thank you all, and we will, Councillor Peters.
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship, and I appreciate you acknowledging Gord's passing. You're quite correct. It's a huge hole in the community. One of the things I first met Gord over 40 years ago, but served with him for 11 years on council. And one of the things that always struck me about Gord was he brought a different perspective to this room. And it was a good perspective to have. Gord, in a lot of ways, always struck me as cut from the same cloth as Peter Lang. You know, a working person who looked out for the little man, the little woman out there, and took on a lot of issues that a lot of people would just avoid and perhaps not touch. But, you know, Gord served this community well, and I just wanted to offer my personal condolences to the family. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor, for you having served with him. I respect that completely. As Gord may have been on the opposite side of the issue with you, but he was always respectful about how he shared what he thought with you. All right. Any disclosures of interest from any of the members? Councillor McCauley.
I would like to disclose that I'm a board member of Somerset Recovery, which is addressed on tonight's agenda under corporate governance, new business, community grants.
Thank you. Any others? Seeing none? Minutes.
Your Worship, I have a motion that the minutes of the meetings held on April the 15th, 2024 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? We're carried.
Next order of business are deputations. We have one deputation this evening. We have Miles Prue from the Elgin Children's Foundation and Susie Dennis from Doug Terry Homes to discuss the Lemonade Day fundraiser being held on June the 8th, 2024.
Great. I'll ask you to join us and please share with us Lemonade Day.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Preston, members of City Council. My name is Miles Prue. I work for Family and Children's Services. And I'm joined here with Susie Dennis from Doug Terry Homes. We're thankful for you having us here today as we request a proclamation for the official declaration of June 8th as Lemonade Day in Elgin County. So for a moment, I just want you to close your eyes. Picture vibrant scene, lemonade stands bursting with color scattered across the landscape of Elgin County. Children play and laugh as they run their stands, neighbors connect and share conversations, and the very essence of community spirit fills the air. This is the vision for Lemonade Day, an initiative designed to unite our community by ensuring all kids have the opportunity to experience the joy of summer camp. So Doug Terry Homes, along with the Elgin Children's Foundation and other esteemed sponsors, are joining forces to bring Lemonade Day to Elgin County. This was inspired by the program of 2-year success in Niagara with remarkable participation and community support, and we aim to replicate that magic here. So the concept is delightfully simple. Families, businesses, schools can all sign up to host a lemonade stand, and we are going to provide everything. We're having stands built with pillars, signs, banners, cups, jugs, lemonade, and they're going to have t-shirts, as well as an online fundraising tool. And every penny that's raised will go directly to supporting children involved with Family and Children's Services to attend summer camp this summer. Summer camp offers an invaluable experience for many children and youth. Two quotes that we had from last year, a kid said this was the best time of their life. And one worker noted that the break allowed a family a much needed reprieve and may have helped them navigate a breaking point. As a parent, I have two young girls, a 10-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old daughter. They love to have run their own lemonade stands. I've never witnessed them work so hard as when they ran lemonade stands last year. They unleashed their creativity, worked as a team, had purpose, and gained valuable skills in the process. While their initial motivation was for financial gain, I know that they would channel that same energy and passion, knowing they were helping their peers and neighbors access the same opportunity. So Lemonade Day presents a remarkable opportunity for Elgin County to come together. It's a chance to celebrate our community spirit, connect with one another, and demonstrate the true meaning of caring for our neighbors. A citywide declaration from St. Thomas would serve a powerful endorsement of Lemonade Day. It would create significant media coverage, encourage greater participation throughout Elgin. This in turn will amplify the positive message that we have, raise awareness, and significantly boost fundraising efforts. Thank you for your consideration. We strongly believe that Lemonade Day will be a resounding success, enriching the lives of countless children in Elgin County. So I don't know if anyone has any questions they would like to
Please,
ask.
if any have questions, we'll take them. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm looking forward to this event, actually. When I first saw it on Facebook, I was like, oh, this is really cool. Initiative, Children Helping Children. That's awesome. Question, who do we contact if we want to donate something? Is it yourself or?
So yes, we have you can go to the Elgin Children's Foundation website and there's a reservation or a registration page there and you sign up online. We only have 25 stands that we're building right now. So those can be registered at until they're all reserved.
Great. Further questions or comments? Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it. This sounds like a great deal of fun for our community and across community, the whole community of Elgin County also. And the chance for kids to go to camp, we know how important that is. So thank you for your initiative. Thank you for your help. And we'll vote on a proclamation later, but I'd be willing to pass a bet that we'll do it. So
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Your worship, at this time, council will resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First committee is strategic direction and development. First item relates to committee of adjustment meeting, notice of a public meeting to take place on May the 9th at 10 a.m. for a minor variance by Robert Waygazer on behalf of PowerCo to permit buildings and construction cranes to penetrate the outer surface as defined in the City of St. Thomas Airport zoning bylaw 36/2019 to a maximum elevation of 306 meters above sea level on the PowerCo SE site. Second item is also notice of a meeting for the same date and time for a minor variance by Doug Terry Limited to permit a maximum of 85 dwelling units per hectare, whereas the maximum is 75 dwelling units per hectare on the property at 175 Manor Road. Third item relates to Hydro One easements pertaining to the Highbury Avenue widening. I have a motion that report ID 1724 relating to the Highbury Avenue widening, Hydro One easements be received for information, and further the council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign and execute the two offer to grant an easement to Hydro One Networks documents as attached to report ID 1724. Moved by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Unless there are any further items under this committee from the members, we'll now move to community engagement and services. First item relates to a road closure request for the Whistle Stop Bicycle Festival. I have a motion that report ES 2224 relating to the Whistle Stop Bicycle Festival road closure request be received for information, and further the council authorize the temporary closure of Curtis Street between Mondamon and St. Catherine Streets on Saturday, May the 25th, 2024, between the hours of 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. to allow for the Whistle Stop Bicycle Festival, and further the access for emergency vehicles be maintained at all times throughout the closures. Moved by Councillor McCauley, second by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Unless the members have any further business under community engagement and services, we'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to the accessibility open house, free transit. I have motion that report ES 2524 relating to the accessibility open house, free transit be received for information, and further, the council waive the transit fare for riders traveling to and from the accessibility open house at Joe Thornton Community Center on Saturday, June the 1st, 2024. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to sick or injured skunks and raccoons. Have motion that report ES 2324 relating to sick or injured skunks and raccoons be received for information, and further, the council directs staff to proceed with option 2 of picking up sick or injured skunks and raccoons on both public and private lands within the city of St. Thomas as outlined in report ES 2324. Moved by Councillor Wookie, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Councillor Wookie, then Councillor Herbert.
Thanks, your worship. When I read this, I had really mixed feelings about it. And I'll just say that I'm willing to say yes to it in the short term as a kind of trial project to see what happens. My concern is that what makes something a distressed or sick animal, and my concern is that anybody who doesn't want a skunk or raccoon in their property is going to call us to get rid of it. And that's all. Like, so I'm willing to give this a shot, and we'll see how staff responds to this and what the uptake is. I think it's great that we are perhaps choosing to do this, but just with the caveat that let's see how it goes for a while, and let's see about what staff thinks about the interactions, and how obviously there's some animals that are obviously ill or sick. Others, someone might say, well, I saw this animal do this, but when our staff gets there, they don't see anything unusual with the animal. Then you've got an uncomfortable interaction with the public. So I'll just leave it at that and say that I'm willing to give this one a shot, but we'll see what happens down the road. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Is there a veterinarian on call on the weekends to deal with these skunks with distemper? Or is it just a Monday to Friday that a veterinarian is available?
Oh, thank you. Kevin, and I really don't want you hanging over the railing either. Thank you. Go ahead, Kevin.
Through the mayor to Councillor Herbert, yes, there is a veterinarian that we do call, but their availability is sometimes sporadic. So sometimes we're not able to get them until the next business day. There is someone available, yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Worship. I too was a little apprehensive at the beginning, and then I got thinking about it, talking to a few other residents in our area, because we do tend to get the raccoons and skunks in the area I live. I do, at first I didn't, and then I kind of thought about it after talking with him, and I do like the option of number 2. And again, with Councillor Wookie's words, yeah, I like to see what happens and do a year-end report and see how it goes. Because again, people say that there's a skunk that is not well. Meanwhile, it is healthy. They just didn't want it there.
Right. Further discussion? Councillor Peters.
Thanks very much, Worship. A few questions to Kevin. One, will our staff who will be picking these up receive specific health and safety training? Suddenly they're doing a job that they haven't historically been doing on a regular basis, and I want to just look out for the welfare of our staff, and then I have a couple others.
Through the mayor to Councillor Peters, yes, absolutely. We'd be training them. In fact, the wildlife rehabilitators have offered to provide us that type of training. So that partnership seems to be working.
Perfect.
Thank you. My second question, Your Worship, this is not going to be retroactive. So we've seen this huge bump over the past year or so, according to the report. We're not making this retroactive and paying for people from the past. This is only going forward.
Through the mayor to Councillor Peters, correct. This is a go forward basis.
Okay, thank you. And how do we ensure for the well-being and the health and safety of the existing dogs and cats? How do we ensure that the vehicle that's used or the return visit back to the shelter on Burwell Road doesn't in some way infect the animals that are in our care?
Through the mayor to Councillor Peters, this is a separate isolated container, if you will, that transports these these animals, especially skunks. They'll be transported outside of the vehicle, not inside of the vehicle. So basically where you hook up your trailer through the tow hitch, it'll be in that container. So there wouldn't be that opportunity for them to pollute the inside of the vehicle, if you will.
Okay. Counselor Clark?
Thank you. I was just wondering if there's any other types of animals, wild animals that other cities would include in a list like this? Or is it typically just the two?
Kevin?
Uh,
Good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. Through the mayor to Councillor Clark. Mainly it's related to nuisance type animals. So the ones that are tipping over our garbage cans are the ones that I'm aware of that municipalities typically deal with. Skunks and or snakes and mice are typically not as prevalent in that regard. So we don't normally, I haven't seen municipalities getting involved in other types of wildlife other than these two.
Go ahead.
So if someone saw, I don't know, let's say coyote or mink or something that looked like it was ill, what would the typical procedure be with this new setting?
Through the mayor to Councillor Clark, if you see a coyote or some other type of animal in that regard, I would contact the wildlife rehabilitators and keep your distance. Coyotes tend to move around in packs, so you want to keep your distance from them. Don't engage.
Wouldn't we call the Acme Anvil Company? Sorry. I couldn't resist it. I had to put that one in. Councillor Gibson?
Thank you, Worship. That's good. That's a good one. The rehabilitation centers, are those phone numbers available on our site, on our website Real? Because I've had to direct a few people to a few of them. I was just wondering if we can maybe have a list available that the public, we as counselors or they as customer service can direct the information. Thank you.
Through the mayor to Councillor Gibson, yes, if it's not there, I'll make sure
Make
that
sure it
those
is.
contact informations will be there. And I did want to mention that if we do, we will not be picking up healthy animals. These are only sick or injured skunks or raccoons. So if they're animals appearing to behave normally, but it happens to be underneath their deck, we're not going to. And yes, that may be an awkward interaction, but that's where we're drawing the line.
Super. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That is carried.
Next item relates to tender award for the South Edgeware Booster Station. I have a motion that report ID 1824 relating to the South Edgeware Booster Station tender award be received for information, and further the council award the South Edgeware Booster Station tender award to Heyman Construction Incorporated in the amount of $14,320,000 excluding HST. Moved by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Is there any concern that this booster station may not be completed on time when the Volkswagen plant is open?
I'll go all the way to Mr. Lawrence for the answer on this one.
Yes, there is a concern. It's one of the tightest items in the Yarmouth Yards project. That's why, if you recall, we procured the pumps in advance. So the pumps and the electrical controls are already under construction and they should arrive in the next 4 months. The building, though, is tight to get functioning. We need to get it running by next August, so August 2025. So that's very tight.
Further questions or comments? Councillor Wookey?
Thanks, your worship. Mr. Lawrence, if you just give the public, like, what is a booster station? Like, what is it and why is it needed? Thanks.
Mr. Lawrence, I'm going to be in a funny mood all night. This isn't going to work. Go ahead.
So the booster station, the incoming water comes from Lake Erie from the treatment plant. It gets pumped up from the lake to South Edge which is called the EMPS, the Elgin Middlesex Pumping Station. At that point, the water is pumped again to have more pressure to go throughout the city. In this case, this pumping station will pump water to the industrial subdivision. So it'll pump it to the Yarmouth Yard subdivision, and it actually boosts up the pressure to around 85 PSI. So the Yarmouth Yard subdivision will be a really high pressure, and you do that for industry because they have equipment, lines, machinery that runs off high pressure water. So it's a contained building that pumps water up to high pressure and distributes it through St. Thomas.
Great. Councillor Clark?
Is there any penalties built into the contract in terms of timelines for them to meet?
Mr. Lawrence?
Thanks. Yeah, there's definitely liquidated damages built into both the pump supply, electrical supply, and the construction of this building. We put them is fairly steep in this case, a bit steeper than normal because it's so significant. So the high pressure is required for power co to function. So we need to have that in place before they can start the factory. So yes, very steep in this case.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
Next item relates to the industrial development update number 3. I have a motion that report ID 1924 relating to the industrial development update number 3 be received for information. By Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Macaulay.
Questions or comments? Councillor Baldwin-Sands, then Councillor Macaulay.
Thank you. I was especially glad to see the project management graph that was on page 1 on this report. I was hoping for comments on the last item where there is the green line completely across on the hopes for tree planting, the bat boxes, the woodpecker boxes, and the habitat. Even when you drive by the site, you can see the placement of the bat boxes and the woodpecker boxes going down the County Road 52. So it's great to see all of them there. I was hoping for comments from Mr. Lawrence, if I could, please.
Mr. Lawrence, a lot of comment about the replacement of trees, and as the councillor has said on the boxes also. So give us your input.
Thanks. I should give credit to Meredith Woodhouse, who's our new engineer in training, who's prepared this report and is also responsible for the bat boxes in our environmental programs. So in general, at this point, we have installed most of the bat boxes, most of the woodpecker boxes. We do those as remediation and to create more habitat for those animals. As part of those, we have to study those boxes. So there's temperature loggers inside each of the bat boxes. And what that gives you an indication of is how much the boxes are being used by bats. So there's different color boxes, there's different materials, different sizes. We actually put some in different directions, different orientations. And the point of that is to find out through the study which are the most effective. And then in the future, the MECP will suggest that those be used as mitigation. So those programs for bats and woodpeckers are going very well. In terms of tree replacement, what we have is in general to replace at an acre to acre replacement ratio. There's some slight variations and it has to go within the eco region. So we'll target probably within KCCA and CCCA conservation authorities. And it's likely that we'll partner with those agencies to provide them some funding and look for land that can be replanted. The only limiting factor is that it needs to be 1 hectare minimum acreage size. So we can't put a bunch of small things in, we have to do larger chunks. The idea is to get more continuous natural environment places. So contiguous corridor for animals to use in theory. So that's the update.
Thank you. Councillor Macaulay?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the report. I also like a great visual, and this shows there's some great work being done. I just have a question. What puts planning and zoning and the booster station in the yellow indicating concern? Like, kind of what triggers that color, if you will?
Please go ahead, Mr. Lawrence.
So the booster station was always going to be a yellow because it's so tight that there's no room for error in that one. So we need to move through the steps as fast as possible. And that's why we were speaking about, obviously procuring the pumps in advance. So it was always going to be either yellow or get into the red territory. So we're actively managing that one all the time. It's that's a challenge, that one, but to date we're doing fine. The planning and the zoning, there is obviously the plan of subdivision process needs to be finalized and the zoning needs to be put in place before building permits can be issued. So for example, PowerCo is intending to start foundations in the next couple of months, and that zoning needs to be in place. So we have some work to do still to finish off that plan of subdivision process and to get the zoning in place. If not, what happens is it delays the start of factories, which is on the critical path, which is an important topic. So it's because of its importance, it's always been something to monitor, but it is getting very tight now. We need to wrap it up in the next couple months.
Great. Councillor Clark.
Thanks. I noticed one of the items is the training center. And I was just wondering, it's in green, so it's a ways out. Is it intended to be built on site, and is it intended that they have a temporary site? Because I know like there's a lot of training that's going to have to go on before, I would assume, before that building is built. Or will they wait and do it all on site?
Mr. Lawrence.
There's still plans being worked out for training. At this point, there's nothing finalized. PowerCo doesn't know exactly what they want to do, but they are working with some different agencies and they're working with the city on how to do that. It's very likely that we'll see a combination of on-site and off-site. So you can imagine it could be at an existing post-secondary school, or it could be in a specialized building that's on-site that would be a bit more specific to on-the-job training.
Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Worship. I think the questions I'm asking will be next to Jeff's department in regards to the bats homes there. First of all, you're mentioning that they were monitored. I was wondering if they're monitored by an individual going out periodically, or are they done networkly with Wi-Fi? And I have 2 bat homes on my tree, and I do know yearly we have to clean them. And I was just wondering if that is part of the with the program here, and if any of this or all of it is covered under the budget. Thank you.
Lawrence.
So in this case, we have temperature loggers that are Bluetooth enabled. So we actually send Meredith around, and Meredith walks around and scans them at the required frequencies. And we download all the data from them, and then we compile them in a report that we have to make like a scientific paper. We get a bit of help on that from some bad experts, and we have to produce a paper and give it to the MECP. So it's underway, and it's a constant process we have to do, I think, for 3 or 4 years. Yeah. I'm not aware of a clause for cleaning, but it's likely that if you know about it and it's important, it's probably in the details, and I should look that up. Okay.
Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Your Worship. Quick question, and welcome, Meredith. I've never heard the title engineer in training before. But, is that like an apprentice engineer? I mean, and I asked the question respectfully. It's just a title I've not heard before.
It is, it's engineering training, and the name has changed a little bit over the years, but it's generally an apprenticeship after you complete your schooling, that you get out in the professional, the workforce, that you have some course requirements, some project requirements, and some years of experience. And then when you finish that, you get the PEng, so the professional engineers.
Right.
That's right.
So where did you do your training? No, never. I'll leave that alone. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Justin, for the report. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Unless the members have any further items for this committee?
Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Your Worship. Two items. One, Maria sent out last week the copy of the parks maintenance plan. I gave Jeff a heads up on this one. The question I wanted to ask is, what steps do we need to take as a council to enhance that plan? And I realize we have timelines of students coming on board, but sometimes the students coming on board don't coincide with how fast the grass is growing out there. And I recognize we have to have priority areas, but you know, I can look at the Whistle Stop Trail as an example, or the parkette at the corner of Victoria and Margaret and Stanley Street. And they're really long right now. And I know we've got students coming on board, or maybe they even started this week, but are there steps that we can do to get an earlier start at this?
Thank you, Mayor Preston and Councillor Peters. This year is a bit of an anomaly. We've had 2 staff available to cut 700 acres. One full-time, we had a contract position start about 3 weeks ago. We're in the position of council approved 3 positions that can be shared between roads and parks. And we're just in the position to hire those 3 positions applicants now. So next year we would have those 3 in the spring to help out. And as everyone knows, you get some heat units, constant precipitation, and here we are. You're correct. The students just did start cutting grass this week. They started late last week, but they had training. So we're in a real catch-up mode. We're going to review how this partnership works with roads. I'm pretty excited about it. I think it'll help both business units. And then we can come back and say if we have enough people power to manage the turf.
Did you have a second? Mr. Bray, I wanted to say thank you for the tree giveaway for on Arbor Day. We had quite a uptake of citizens who wanted trees, and many got them and some did not. Is this something you think we might repeat?
Thank you, Mayor Preston. Definitely. We have a report coming forward for council's consideration, just an information report on this past event, how we built upon the one that we had last year, and moving forward, how we think lessons learned. We exceeded expectations. People were lined up down onto Elm Street. So I don't want to take away the excitement of the report that's coming forward, but we do have some recommendations for council to consider, and definitely want to move forward with this and increase the program.
Well, great. We look forward to that then. Thank you, Mr. Bray. Mr. Peters, sorry, Councillor Peters.
Thanks very much, Worship. I have another question for Kevin DeLebeck. For the first time in my life, Your Worship, I'm experiencing a construction zone, and I very much tongue-in-cheek welcomed the alarm clock going off at 7 o'clock in the morning as the contractors start, and the beep beeping and the end of the day of pounding in sand, etc. But, and I've heard this before from other construction projects. Is there a way we can build something into our construction contracts that when a project is done, we go back in and clean up a neighborhood? And I mean clean the buildings. It is, I'm filthy. My building is filthy. My buildings are filthy. And when the construction is all said and done, I have to clean it, but I didn't cause it. And I know I've experienced this on Hughes Street, on Stanley Street of recent capital projects. Is this something in your experience that's ever been done, or is this something that we could, perhaps you could come back and report on, of providing some services to neighborhoods to help sort of tidy things up when the job is done?
Mr. DeLebeck?
Through the mayor to Councillor Peters. What I'm typically aware of is doing a pre-construction survey and then a post-construction survey. So if there's any damage done to the property, whether that's crack in the foundation or doors are all disjointed or something has shifted or moved as a result of the construction project, we'll make that right through that process of pre to post. But I haven't really heard of a cleaning service coming through afterwards. And I would have a hard time defining of where that line might be of, well, you didn't get the top shelf there, or, so I would have a hard time trying to understand the lines of that. But I also think that might be a bit costly to our construction projects to go through all the homes to have them cleaned like a, I'm thinking you're thinking like I have a cleaning service to get all the dust and debris through.
I'll clarify that. And yes, two of my antique bottles in my basement have fallen off the shelves and have smashed on the floor, but I don't think a pre-construction survey would have, that's my own fault. I'm not talking
Put them a
interiors.
little further back.
I'm
on the-
talking exteriors, like windows and siding that is dirty, that kind of thing. I'm not talking about interiors in any way.
I agree with Councillor Peters. We heard it on Talbot Street also, certainly with the businesses on Talbot wanting some sort of rinse and clean after the dust was all settled, but most of them took it upon themselves and got that done. But I think that's really, we're talking about the outsides of buildings.
Through the mayor to Councillor Peters, I can go back and check with my colleagues to see what services they might be providing in their contracts. And if there's anything that materializes out of those discussions, I'll bring that back.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Anything else under this committee? Seeing none?
We'll now move into corporate governance and administration. First item relates to the OMERS participation bylaw update. I have a motion that report HR 0224 relating to the OMERS participation bylaw update be received for information. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to community grants for May of 2024. I have a motion that report TR 0624 relating to community grants for May 2024 be received for information. And further, the council approved the community grant request for Rainbow Optimist Club for $3,500. And further, the council approved the community grant request for Elgin Amateur Radio Society for approximately $350. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sand, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments on the grants? Councillor McCauley?
I just, as part of a board member for Somerset Recovery, although I didn't have any hand in the actual application process when they were declined, I did kind of walk myself through the process of applying for a grant, based on what's online and that process. And I know that a lot of work has been done to create a framework so that, it is easier to determine who is, who can receive a grant. But when looking at the application, it's not up to date for one. And, it says that there's an administrative grant review committee that reviews every application. So I just wanted to ask, I just have a couple questions about the application process. Like,
Thank you. We'll have the treasurer come forward.
so just a few questions. So one of them is what is classified as operating costs for an event? Because I noticed that one is approved for insurance, which was technically operating cost for an event. Any organization wants to apply for a grant, it would be for operating costs of the event, not operating costs going forward.
Correct. Yeah, I could give you one example. The seniors picnic. It is, the applicant there is VON. So when they apply, it is for the event, the money is for the event, but if other reason regarding nursing, it would be operating expense. But because this is an event, it is operating expenses, but it's pertaining just to the event.
And so our grant process is to align with council strategic objectives. Considering we've just updated our strategic plan, is there anything that needs to be updated in this document in order to align with our strategic plans? Because since I've been on council, the only thing that I do see getting approved is events. So I'm just wondering if that still aligns with our strategic objectives.
Well, that one was done, I think, in around 2021, and it was specifically council mandated that it be events and not, council didn't want, there's a lot of good groups doing a lot of good work, but council didn't want to be funding them in their operation. So it specifically states it's for events, mainly for events.
Yeah, except it doesn't. So it would be great if we could go back and take a look at that. And if it's just for events, we make that really clear because it's not for other organizations that are applying. And then it also states that there's an administrative grant review committee. Who makes up the committee?
That's me so far.
Okay, so it may be worthwhile, so you're not the only guy to share the bad news. It may be worthwhile to have more people at the table to review the applications and go through the evaluation matrix. So just my thoughts as I try and go through the process myself. It definitely could be updated and make sure that it's crystal clear to people who are applying, because that will save time on both sides, both the cities and people applying.
Okay. Mr. Treasurer, would you assume that council needs to do that work, or you need to do that work and bring it to us? All right, that's that. I mean, we got it to this point and you've been managing it pretty solidly, but Councillor McCauley's right. We have a new set of strategic objectives, and maybe we do want to look and see how each of the functions we use relates to that. I think we get a chance, you and I can have a discussion about that and see whether we bring it back to this table or we do it off and then bring it back as a full report. Yeah. Councillor McCauley, I'll be counting on your help. Thank you. On the report, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, unless the members have any further items for this committee,
Seeing none.
council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of council and committee of the whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Rookie, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into reports of committees. First committee this evening relates to heritage alteration permit for the property at 492 to 496 Talbot Street. I have a motion that report MHC 0524 relating to the heritage alteration permit for the property at 492 to 496 Talbot Street be received for information, and for the council issue a heritage alteration permit for the property at 492 to 496 Talbot Street relating to application HAP 0424. Moved by Councillor McCauley, second by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments on the report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next committee report relates to a heritage alteration permit for the property at 795 Talbot Street. I have a motion that report MHC 0424 relating to the heritage alteration permit for 795 Talbot Street be received for information, and further the council issue a heritage alteration permit for the property at 795 Talbot Street relating to application HAP 0324. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Thank you. I was very, very impressed by what is proposed by the artist and by the location and the sensitivity to making sure that not just the heritage, but the linkages and the opportunities that have been created have all been put into the report by the artist and what they are planning for the site. And I think it's very impressive. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, we move into petitions and communications. The first item relates to a request for proclamation flag raising and Red Shirt Day relating to National Accessibility Week. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim May 26th to June 1st, 2024 as National Accessibility Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the accessibility flag be flown at City Hall from May 27th to June 1st, 2024, and further that a flag raising ceremony be held on May 27th, 2024, and further that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim May 29th, 2024 as Red Shirt Day in the City of St. Thomas. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next is a request for a proclamation for Lemonade Day. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim June 8th, 2024 as Lemonade Day in the City of St. Thomas. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That is carried.
Next is a request for a proclamation and flag raising by the Elder Abuse Organization. Excuse me. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim June 15th, 2024 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Elder Abuse Elgin flag be flown at City Hall from June 10th to 16th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next is a request for a proclamation and flag raising relating to Pride Week. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim August 5th to the 11th, 2024 as Pride Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Pride flag be flown at City Hall from August 5th to the 11th, 2024, and further that a flag raising ceremony be held on August 2nd, 2024. Moved by Councillor McCauley, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is notice that an application has been made to the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario by Club Champions Lounge Limited for a liquor license for its indoor area at 539 Talbot Street, just across the road here at Mondayman. Council may make representation to the commission regarding the application. Last item on the agenda is 2023 annual report, performance report, and financial statements received from the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation Board of Directors. Those reports can be viewed on the MPAC's website. Your worship, unless there are any items of communication from the council members.
Councillor Wookie?
Thanks, your worship. This Saturday at 2 o'clock at Knox Church, the Railway City Wind Ensemble is playing. It's $10 a person. They are led by my friend and former colleague, Richard Frank, and it's a really good show. It's very professional. Give it a shot. They do a great job. You'll know lots of people from the community are in the ensemble. So that is this Saturday, 2 p.m. at Knox Church. Tickets at the door. $10. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clark?
This Saturday is the opening of our local market, so we
Yes.
hope everyone will attend.
Yes. Can't wait. I always over purchase at the market. Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, worship. I had a few people in the weekend ask me when the start date was going to be for the new animal shelter. And I just throw that out. If
I
Mr.
think
Bray
we're
would
going
know.
to get an answer from Mr. Bray. Jeff?
Thank you, Mayor Preston. We're just, as council is aware, we're tweaking the design to bring it within budget. Some items have further come up. We're just finalizing the design now and we're hoping to get it out for tender within the next 3 weeks. So after the tender, that would probably, an aggressive time frame would have it done by the end of the year. I'm looking at the spring of next year.
Super. Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Thank you. Just to let council know that in Pinafore Park this week, for a few days, that we are hosting
Water
the
Fest-
Children's Water Festival.
Yes.
So I look forward to participating on Thursday, but I know that students from all over the Thames Valley area will be coming to our community to partake in a very great learning opportunity on how to protect, save, reduce, reuse, and protect our water systems throughout our entire area. Thank you.
I think I'm there Thursday too, so. Any other new business? Wanted to thank everyone who came this morning for the flag raising for Mental Health Week. We had a large crowd out front and thank you all for those that came. And that's all I've got for this week.
Your worship, if we have concluded unfinished business and new business of council, we'll now move into the bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws, moved by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Peters.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Peters, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Councillor Clark.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on May 6, 2024.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to appoint a city manager, Michael Bradley, effective May 15th, 2024.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Third bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and the corporation of the municipality of Central Elgin. This relates to boundary adjustment compensation.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fourth bylaw is a bylaw to appoint an area weed inspector to enforce the provisions of the Weed Control Act in the city of St. Thomas, being Katie Vetch.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Fifth bylaw is a bylaw to amend bylaw 50-88, being the zoning bylaw for the city of St. Thomas. This relates to the expansion of permitted commercial uses with site-specific provisions to deal with parking regulations across 3 lots at 1016 to 1020 Talbot Street.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw.
Sixth and final bylaw is a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and the corporation of the municipality of Central Elgin. This relates to the Central Elgin Planning Office services.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. I rise and report the successful passing of 6 bylaws.
Thank you.
I have a motion by Councillor Kohler, seconded by Councillor Peters, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 6 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next, under public notice, notice is hereby provided of an accessibility open house on Saturday, June the 1st from 11 till 4 at the Joe Thornton Community Center, 75 Queso Crossing. And that's to be hosted by the St. Thomas Municipal Accessibility Advisory Committee in partnership with the Elgin County Central Elgin Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee. No notices of motion this evening, Your Worship. There is a need to move into closed session at this time. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a proposed or pending disposition of land a position plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality, a matter of litigation or potential litigation, and a personal matter about an identifiable individual. Moved by Counselor Gibson, second by Counselor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Before we vote, I will share with all, as we normally do, we're closing our open session today, and we have a few items we have to handle in closed session. We will not be coming back into public except to adjourn the meeting. So I wish you all, thank you for joining us tonight, and lots of great work. So all in favor of closed session? Any opposed? Carried.